Hey everybody, welcome back to Thingy's Tech Talk, where we talk about all things tech. I'm Jeff Bromley.
And I'm Rob Barra.
And today we're going to talk to you about Apple's latest event, the Worldwide Developers Conference in 2021.
Yes, WWDC 21 is back. It's still virtual, so people aren't packing into the Moscone Center out in San Francisco still, which is nice. Gives more people a chance to actually participate in it, all virtual. It's good stuff. But this is really the fun event for the nerds like us that like to find out what's coming. You know, there's normally recent years, they haven't really announced any product. It's more software based. In years past, they were talking about hardware and things like that because you couldn't really talk about new software without talking about new hardware. But now that's a little bit less. And the focus is really just on iOS 15 and the latest version of macOS, which is called, I don't remember.
It's somewhere in here.
Somewhere in macOS, someplace in California. Monterey.
Monterey, that's it. Yes.
macOS Monterey. I still haven't installed Big Sur. I'm a little delinquent on that. My machines are kind of older. I'm hanging in there and waiting for the M2 to be released before I update anything. But Monterey is on the docket for later this year. But really for us, with the ubiquity of iPhones and iPads and things like that, iOS is really the big ticket item for us in terms of what I'm excited about. Jeff, why don't you kind of take it away and talk about what some of the new features are of iOS 15?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to kind of dovetail back into the reasoning, you talked about the new hardware. Typically, Apple's releasing new features to kind of release new hardware. So they're really trying to push what they can do. And this allows the developers to see how far they can push these devices and what's new and what's next. I mean, the first thing that really caught my eye, and, being an audiophile and having all the music equipment in my basement, is the new spatial audio and Dolby Atmos. I am excited about that. However, I don't have any of the audio equipment to support it. So my receiver needs to now be Dolby Atmos. I need to get a 4K Apple TV. So again, you can see how Apple's going, here's the new stuff. You got to catch up with the hardware. But that's kind of Apple's MO, and we're always constantly upgrading.
Well, and again, the thing that's interesting about that, and, again, par for the course, Apple is at least putting out 4K content, unlike the broadcast networks that aren't really putting out anything. The big driver for HDTV was sports. And everybody was talking about how great sports would be, 16:9, see more of the field, it's clearer, blah, blah, blah. You've got the same deal. So what's driving 4K consoles, high-end streaming content, whether it's, Mandalorian or the stuff that's on Disney Plus, or whether it's great shows that are on Apple TV Plus, like Ted Lasso season 2 coming this summer, I hope. That show was great. I loved it. Anyway, so it makes sense to kind of push things in that direction. I mean, the new 4K Apple TV is pretty interesting. It's a nice spec bump, obviously, from the older device. But one of the things that gets me excited about the new Apple TV is the Apple TV 4K, because they did revise the HD version too. But the new 4K's got a technology in it called Thread, which is a peer-to-peer networking thing, which is nice for all of you that have smart plugs that always disconnect from your Wi-Fi. It will help that kind of work on going forward. But anyway, back to iOS.
but that Apple TV that you have, and all of this new equipment that you have that has either the M1 processor or whatever the audio processor, I forget which one that is. But if you have all that stuff, you're able to do new and neat things. So for instance, Apple's put a major push into FaceTime and what they are calling SharePlay. So what they're looking to do from a personal level is really trying to bring everybody together to say, hey, if you want to watch a TV on whether that be Disney Plus or on Hulu or on Netflix, you guys can all basically stop, tune in, and watch that content synchronously with friends that are remote, which I think is neat. Xbox tried this. I think it was with my 360 they had it, and they had Xbox parties or something like that. I never saw it take off, but who knows? Apple, with the fact that everybody's got one of these and they'll probably have an Apple TV, who knows? It might be pretty interesting. The one thing to note about FaceTime, and Rob and I were talking about this before, is FaceTime will now work with Android. So Apple is looking to bring FaceTime and the level of FaceTime security across other devices and other platforms, allowing it for it to be a more ubiquitous way to talk to people. It'll be interesting to see whether Android users are like, yeah, I'm not going to go sign up for an Apple ID just so I can use FaceTime. I'm an Android guy. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but at least they're going to be less dependent on just only having the Apple ecosystem for FaceTime.
Right. Well, and you know, I see it as potentially a precursor for iMessage being made into an application that works cross-platform. You know, with some of the litigation that Apple's facing right now and some of the hostility that tech in general is facing in Congress, it's you know, be interesting to see how the next couple of years shake out as far as some of these things go. I mean, Apple's got a big component of its lock-in with iMessage. And, you know, there are probably a lot of people that wish that they could, you know, have iMessage, but won't necessarily want to have the more expensive phones or things like that. So, you know, I think it'd be an interesting counterpoint if, for whatever reason, Apple gets pursued for, you know, antitrust or you know, some sort of, you know, breakup from a monopoly point of view. So it'll be interesting to see how decisions like this play into it. But it'd certainly be nice for people that are Android users that want to have FaceTime chats with their friends, you know, because I could see, you know, my daughter uses FaceTime extensively, if not exclusively, to communicate with people when she's not texting, of course. But, you know, it's a big deal, I feel.
Yeah. All right, next up on our list of cool things that we saw that we think is neat is Spotlight and live text. I saw this. I think it's cool. It may have a little bit of a creepy factor to it, but let's say you were to take a picture and there was a restaurant in the background. Your phone can now interpret that, be able to read the text and know where that place is and say, would you like to call restaurant X to place an order? I think it's cool. I think it's a little weird. I think it's a little creepy because now it's able to interpret pixels and convert that into text. So now we can actually index all of these images based on what the text is in the picture behind us. So it could be interesting. I'm actually thinking about ways that we can apply this to, let's say, Thingy's platform called iDetail, because we do everything as what's called rasterized images, which are basically pixels versus vectorized images. So we'll actually be able to search on all of the text that are in all of these slides, allowing for searches to happen really quite easily down to the slide level. So I'm kind of excited about it. I'm kind of creeped out about it because Apple may be knowing a lot more. Well, I mean, they're saying they're being private, but
right. But the key point about that, Jeff, though, is that there's the approach that Apple is using for its AI is it's actually doing it on device. So you might be taking a picture and you might be doing that live text interpolation or OCR, whatever you want to call it. But that processing is actually happening on your device. It's not being sent to a cloud to be, you know, crunched and then sent back. It's not like, you know, what happens with Alexa when you're, you know, it's recording and it's kind of feeding the larger machine. All of that processing is happening on the device. So the privacy aspects of it are absolutely maintained in that sense. I mean, obviously we get a hold of the device, blah, 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 but you know, it's at least not being sent to the cloud for that processing to happen.
And they're doing the same thing now. They talked about Siri, I guess with the newer phones and the newer chipsets, they're moving Siri to the chip, which used to happen, you know, many moons ago. My Motorola phone had a chipset on it, which could do basically, you know, voice to text, be able to convert it and interpret it and be able to know how to dial a number. Now Siri is going to be able to set an appointment, set a timer, do all of this, and none of the recordings are going to the cloud, similar to the way that Amazon is. So it's interesting to see that push that it's going to put all that right on the chipset and be able to do it locally.
Right, and then you'll be able to do it without an internet connection. You'll be able to do it much faster. Latency won't be an issue. You know, so a lot of those fixes and those changes, again, enabled by Apple's mobile chipsets, really are going to be very beneficial to the overall user. It'll be seamless for most of what most people are seeing. But, you know, again, it's more, you know, Apple is definitely taking the privacy tack versus, you know, something like Google or Amazon, where they're just, you know, collecting everything and crunching it from there. So it'll it's a nice differentiation. It's an interesting way to go about it. Certainly it lends itself towards what you would describe as Apple being kind of in third place as far as text recognition is concerned, or voice recognition is concerned. So the next couple of years again will be very interesting to see how that change and the processing and software capabilities lend itself to this.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I think people are getting fed up with the privacy violations. I have a friend that was talking about literally, today, he was talking about buying shoes, and he didn't do a search on his computer or on his phone or on anything like that. And sure enough, the brand and the color of the shoe that he was wanting showed up as an ad for him on Facebook. So I again, repeated, hey, turn off the microphone. I mean, we've talked about this before, but it's still, people are getting fed up with this stuff.
Yeah. So the next thing we're going to talk about, and this is interesting, is the Apple Wallet. So Apple is looking to remove the fact that you need to have a physical wallet on you. Now, I personally have a Costanza wallet. It's probably about that thick. My chiropractor said not to sit on this, to remove it while I'm driving. It is pretty thick. It might be nice to be able to get rid of that, although it would feel weird not having an actual wallet. If I had to have a trust for anyone to have my information and to have a wallet, I would say Apple. I mean, they're obviously the front runner as far as privacy and security. Will I go out without an actual piece of identification and physical piece? No, I'm still going to have my physical driver's license on me. I don't care. That is just a habit that I have. But I think future generations like our children will be like, yeah, I just got it on my wallet. I'm going out. It's not a problem.
Well, yeah, again, I mean, there's a lot of people prefer carrying as little as possible with them when they go out for the evening or what have you. I know, that's what led to MagSafe having, the MagSafe wallets where you could put a couple of cards and attach it to the back of your phone. Some people just like to go out with just their phone and as little in their pockets as possible, or not bring a purse or what have you. So, yeah, I mean, this is really an answer to that. Plus, this is also a nice thing if you're traveling. They announced that TSA is going to support some sort of scheme for managing ID, so you can go through the checkpoints faster. I think that that's going to be really neat. I mean, I found that as pandemic restrictions have started to be reduced, Apple, Face ID and things like that are useful again. They did a nice little workaround with the Apple Watch for unlock, which was nice, but still using Apple Pay and things like that was just a pain. So now it's, that's sort of coming back. And then with newer hardware for the watch undoubtedly coming in the fall and things like that, it'll be interesting to see how these types of things, plus the different scanners, hotels, keys, and things like that, typically you don't lose your phone. Typically you don't forget your phone in the hotel room. If you can have a hotel key on your phone, that's great. I mean, I've had that happen once or twice where the hotel actually supported it. It sort of worked okay. The phones are getting better. The hardware in the hotels is getting better, but they're also, I saw that they were announcing some new smart locks capabilities and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see again how new devices that come out, new support for HomeKit and things, and even things that they didn't announce in the keynote that'll come out over the course of WWDC. It'll be interesting to see how those will tie into the wallet ecosystem and also into the HomeKit ecosystem in terms of using your phone as an access point for more things. I mean, we've already seen it with Ticketmaster and with live sports or concerts and things like that, where they're refreshing codes so that you actually have to use the app. You can't just send screenshots. Too many people were getting scammed, that sort of thing. So that's there's already been a move in this direction. I mean, Disney is replacing their physical keys with the ability to use your phone. If you've ever been in the last couple of years with the Magic Bands, those are super. You just need your Magic Band. You can put your credit card on it, all that kind of stuff. Don't have to carry
which
a wallet.
I kind of wanted to try. I haven't been back to Disney. I was like, I just want to get a Magic Band, go there and be
Magic Bands are nice.
Yeah.
Magic Bands are nice. I mean, they have the nice side effect for Disney of being able to kind of watch crowds and see where things are going and give crowd line updates and things like that, rather than getting the little red card thing that they give you. But you know, it's there's a lot of benefits to having those types of devices, especially in warmer places like Florida in the summer. If you're down at Disney, it's really nice not having to carry around a wallet and worry about it getting wet when you go on a water ride or what have you.
Yeah,
So,
and the new phones are water resistant, so that's always good too.
I'm a little more bullish on this than I think than you are, Jeff. I use Wallet extensively, and would love for it to be more fully featured. So I welcome this. Yeah. Although I will say that the local police benevolence associations will need to come up with an Apple
digital
Wallet
version?
An Apple Wallet compatible PBA card, please. That'll be nice for all of us Jersey residents.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. So let's move on to our next thing. I mean, weather.
Let's go to maps.
Weather is not that big of a deal. I think. Well, the only thing I like about weather is one less app. I don't need the Weather Channel app. There'll be a lot less tracking. I'll be able to get actual radar. Like right now, it's thunder and lightning outside for both of us. So it would be nice to have the radar. Instead, I've got to go into the Weather Channel app or the NOAA app. So it's going to be all built in right here, and there's going to be lots of neat, new, cool animations. But I think the
Maps,
next one
I think is the thing.
Yeah. What's that?
Maps.
I don't know whether you saw it yesterday during the video, but I think maps are going to be amazing because maps are now 3D. Maps are 3D and they actually have elevations. So you know when you're going over an overpass, where the flyovers are, and they are really looking to 3Dize what maps are going to be while you're driving and actually show you which lane you need to be in versus, hey, you need to be over there. And you're like, uh-oh, I'm not close enough yet. So, I mean, they've gotten better with a couple releases. I mean, I know that I remember the first version of Apple Maps that came out was horrendous. But it's gotten a lot better. And once they bake that all into CarPlay, it's going to be wicked. So yeah, I'm really excited.
That's what I'm looking forward to the most, I think, is that CarPlay integration. Again, I'm trying to minimize as much as I can of, Google, Facebook, that kind of stuff from sort of, watching my every movement. Granted, I haven't moved a whole hell of a lot in the last year, but, I still, just from a reliability point of view, I have used Google Maps and appreciated when Google Maps was made compatible with CarPlay because, again, heavy user of CarPlay. But I'm interested in seeing how this version of Maps shakes out. The 3D stuff, I mean, I don't really pay that much attention to that kind of stuff while I'm driving around. It's not that big of a deal. But as far as I'm concerned, but it'll be nice again if you're walking around, if you're in a place that isn't familiar to you. Those types of things are extremely helpful to make sure that you're not getting lost or turning left and walking off a cliff.
Well, Apple demoed something. As you could, let's say you come out of a subway station, you actually use your camera and augmented reality to scan your surroundings, and it will show you where you need to go and give you like a giant arrow on your iPhone to go, you need to go this way. So yes. I thought it was neat that it was going to be able to process your surroundings, give you that feedback immediately, and then give you some actual, images to say go this way, and it was overlaying it, and what they showed looks really neat. It'll be interesting to see what the final implementation looks like. I know that the Golden Master isn't probably coming out until September. They said fall. That usually means mid-September, but
yeah, it's usually mid-September release.
Yeah.
So, it's usually mid-September release. They'll I think a developer build of the OS is out now. So yeah, if I decide to brick my phone, I will let you know. Usually I wait for the public beta. So I feel a little more comfortable with that because I don't feel like bricking my phone these days. But it all looks interesting.
Yeah, it does. Next up in my notes is AirPods. I don't think that there's a major thing. I think we talked a little bit about it. If you've got the latest AirPods, actually no, the latest AirPods isn't even going to support spatial audio. Like you have
AirPods
to
Pro. You have to have the Pro.
You have to have the Pro. So I think it's gonna be cool. They have the conversation boost for hearing impaired, which will probably be nice if you're at like a noisy restaurant and you actually want to hear what's going on at your table. Maybe you just have your phone and your AirPods and you'll be able to hear better. Who knows? But we'll.
Yeah, I mean, some of those features already exist.
Yeah.
You know, I've used the sort of hearing aid mode on the AirPods because I have the AirPods Pro. Mainly, I got them because they fit better, but. That hearing impaired mode is sort of interesting and kind of allows you to do like creepy stuff, like leave your phone in a room and like walk around and like listen in on what's going on in that room. But, you know, that's sort of an interesting, like scary, okay, maybe I don't want to use this, or people, you know, hey, why is your phone there? But, yeah, I think in a loud restaurant, yes, it'll be nice. I think that since more and more of us are using these AirPods and things that are, you know, loud volume, that we're all going to be hearing impaired before too long. So that's good. You know, that those things are coming. But yeah, I think the spatial audio thing is going to be neat, because one of the things that's nice about it is that if you are laying in bed and you want to watch a TV show, but you don't want to wake up your entire house, you'll still get that, you know, that awesome audio experience. Hopefully, I don't know, I haven't heard it.
Yeah.
But with just your AirPods, there, you know, laying in bed or sitting in a room, you know, again, great for people that live in apartments that can't get or use you know, the heavy duty stuff. I mean, Jeff, to your point about I can't use Atmos, I can't use this, I can't use that because I don't have all of these pieces of equipment. You know, for $200 you can get a pair of AirPods Pro and you can experience some of that stuff at least. Maybe not, you know,
I'm not
maybe not loud enough to feel it, but
listen, I'm saving up for the next version of my iPhone. So that'll probably be the next thing, which they'll release early next year is my guess. But
nah, I bet you we'll see one in October like we do every year.
So? You think they're going to make a push for Christmas?
Yeah, I think we'll see it in the fall.
Great. I mean, all of our kids are going to want new phones for Christmas.
Well, they always want everything, and we don't have to get it. I'm buying a new 4K TV for myself for Christmas this year, so we'll see what happens. You're
still on that. I thought you were going to get that already.
There'll
be an 8K TV out by then. So
I had to buy a new refrigerator, and so my TV got put on the back burner.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm sad.
Enough about AirPods. Next up, iPad OS. My favorite thing about this is the fact that you can now have widgets on some of your app screens. Kind of blew my mind that you couldn't do that at first, similar to how you could on an iPhone. So I was kind of surprised that they didn't just make that part of iPad OS. I have no idea why they didn't, but thanks, Apple. You brought us features that we already had. Now it's just across all the devices. There will be larger format widgets, which I think will be cool depending on the apps that you have running. Again, whether you have the weather app or the photos or whatever. But I mean, I don't take photos with my iPad. I don't even have my photos library synced across my iPad. So it's really just here. So who knows? We'll see what actually is going to happen with that. But it looks interesting.
So what you're saying is you're not one of these people?
I wish I could see what you're sharing, but I can't see. Oh, one of the people that's holding up their iPods to take the pictures?
Holding up the iPad to film.
No.
That's not your thing.
The one thing that I did think that was interesting, and I know that the iPads have had this for a while. I've never been able to figure out what the gesture is to do split screen and multitasking. Now they've actually added user experience and buttons in there to allow you to do it a lot easier. And I was like, oh, that's what I needed. It was all hidden. So if you didn't know where it was, you had to watch a video or figure it out. So
I think the gesture was this.
Yeah, exactly. So they brought that in. So it's interesting. So multitasking, there's more keyboard shortcuts. So I think, you know, they're blurring the lines between an iPad and a MacBook. Mm-hmm. So, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that with Catalina, not Catalina. What is it? Monterey.
Monterey. Yeah.
Which, yeah.
I mean, they are the lines are blurring, and that's, you know, in a lot of ways, it's strictly because it's the same chip, you know, and it's the same chip in an iPad Pro that you've got in a MacBook Pro. So there's going to be a lot of potential there to, you know, especially when you look at, okay, you can compile M1 apps for that are normally, you know, Mac only for the iPad and vice versa. So it's gonna be interesting to see again how, you know, how many more versions until you can run iOS apps natively on the desktop of a Mac. I mean, I recently picked up a new iPad with, you know, a little smart keyboard, and, you know, this is just regular run-of-the-mill 8th gen iPad. It's got, you know, magnetic battery thing. This is a Logitech case, but it's got a little spot for, you know, it's got a little spot for the pencil. You've got a backlit keyboard, and it sits nicely just like a laptop that would on your desk. So it's you know, those lines are blurring in terms of what people need, what people want, and you know, what their needs are. And especially as people start traveling again, once the restrictions are you know, further reduced, it'll be really cool, I think.
Yeah. Well, what's going to be really cool, and I'm just going to kind of jump ahead full of a few of our bullet points because you alluded to this. In macOS, under Monterey, they're going to have what's called continuity with universal control. So this is where the lines are going to get really blurred. So imagine this. You've got your iMac, you've got your iPad, and you've got your MacBook. Your Mac keyboard and mouse will now be able to operate across the three of those devices with continuity. So it's literally, you drag the mouse off the end of the one screen and it goes onto the iPad or it goes onto the MacBook, which I thought was really cool. So now you're going to have different user experiences and potentially go, oh, I like my iPad more for doing audio editing, let's say, but I need my MacBook Pro because I'm going to be out and about and I do things and I have files over here. You'll be able to share it between all of those devices, which is kind of bringing this suite of hardware devices together in order to make this really cool desktop experience. So I am like super excited about this. Granted, similar to spatial audio, I'm sure that I will need to buy new hardware to make all of this work. So my first generation iPad Pro, my 2016 MacBook Pro, and my 5K iMac, which is a few years old, probably need all M1 chipsets. So there is that forced obsolescence that Apple will can constantly keep pushing, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of their business model. It's part of just, you know, you kind of have to plan for that stuff. You know, they're at least nice in that they normally go back a couple of years with support. So, you know, we'll see what happens once those specs are released and what the compatibility matrix looks like. And, you know, again, if they need to, you know, the M1 MacBooks are not terribly expensive. It's not like we're still living in a world of, you know, $2,500 base model MacBook Pros. So there's a little bit of flexibility there. The price of those chips have come down. The price of the hardware has come down. Hopefully this ridiculous chip shortage that we're dealing with right now will subside, you know, later this year.
I do have a question. Why doesn't Apple seem to be having a chip shortage?
Because they're making their own chips. And
bingo.
You know, and Tim Cook's thing is logistics,
supply chain,
and supply chain. So I would, you know, that's just not how Apple works.
They probably had a contingency plan for a pandemic and a chip shortage somewhere written down as far as here's what we do, because they are an amazing company.
They are. They are.
All right. So we kind of talked a little bit about macOS. I think that there's going to be shortcuts are coming to the Mac. I haven't used Automator or shortcuts that much. I'm sure if I delve into it, it probably would get really neat. But we'll see what's going to happen there. But I'm looking forward to that. watchOS looks super cool. You know, watchOS, you know, they're going to have more mindfulness tools. So breathe and reflect.
Tell me to breathe more times a day.
Yes, exactly. They're going to tell you to breathe more times a day. They're going to try and track your sleeping respiratory rate. They want to do a little bit more tracking.
That I'm interested in, honestly.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that with HealthKit, pairing the two of those up, you know, your level of mobility, the ability to import all of your whether it's LabCorp or Quest or whatever lab you're using, import all of that data, have that and start, again, overlaying all of these data sets And I can now share that health data with my healthcare practitioner through a secure way to be able to share it with them. It's really interesting that it's like, all right, well, you're telling me your back hurts. Well, have you been moving? Let's look at your step count. Let's look at how you've been as far as mobility. Let's look at the new one that they have, your walking steadiness and your balance and your gait. So they're going to be able to record all this between your watch and the fact that your phone's in your pocket. So they got a lot of neat things that are going on from a health perspective. And again, as Apple's in true Apple fashion, they're standing on the shoulders of previous releases, making everything, pushing everything that much further and that much better. I think some of the new chipsets they're releasing is really going to keep improving things. But it'll be really interesting to see once they can finally get blood pressure on this. I have a feeling the blood pressure is already in here. They just don't have it. It's not certified. It's not a medical device, and it's not certified yet. Yeah, and I think on that note, we're gonna save some of the developer technologies potentially for another tech talk. There's some lots of neat things. We haven't gotten through all of WWDC. Again, we're recording this video. WWDC was yesterday, so I'm sure there'll be more announcements as far as some of the cool APIs that Thingy as developers will be able to tap into. So stay tuned for that. But I think, I think we've exhausted a lot of the cool things. Again, we haven't touched on everything that there is that was at WWDC. Again, we're touching on the things that we think are near and dear to our heart. So I think with that, we're going to wrap this week's Tech Talk because we've gone quite a long time, and hopefully you guys are still tuned in. So for this episode of Tech Talk, yeah, we'll give you the short version. So for this episode of Tech Talk, I'm Jeff Bromling.
And I'm Rob Barra. Stay safe out there.